Afternoon. On behalf of Reloom Foundation and the Veronica Morrison Foundation, two foundations established by two world changers, Dr. Sunday Adeosun and Sherry Adeosun, and Pastor Beverly Caesar Morrison. I don't know about you, but I'm excited about our event today, Voice to the Voiceless. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our host and our co-host. Our host name is no other than our Professor Minister Sherry Adeosun. She is a registered professional public health practitioner who has been practicing over 15 years. She has a PhD candidate. She's a PhD candidate at Walden University, majoring in epidemiology and public health. Her areas of research or interests are racial equity, health disparities, vaping, adolescence, and all health wellness. Her intense desire for growth in God's word caused her to also attain her bachelor's degree in theology from Southwestern Seminary in Texas. She is currently an adjunct professor at Long Island University and a staff developer for the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. It is evident that this woman is unstoppable. In conjunction with all of this, Sherry and her husband, Dr. Adeosun, currently use Reloom Foundation as a platform for feeding and giving to the poor, school and medical supplies, services, surgeries, and much, much more to the underprivileged. Currently, they have just opened a clinic in Nigeria, which will even more further enhance the work of the Reloom Foundation Incorporated. Next, we have our co-host, who is a heavyweight in her own right, our woman of God, Dawn Ann Rodriguez McDowell, who is the wife of Tony McDowell and a proud mother of 3 wonderful children and grandchildren. She too comes with many accolades. Ann has a BS from Nyack College for Business and Leadership. She also has her master's degree from Adelphi University in the School of Social Work, along with her LMSW. She has an associate's degree from Bethel Bible Institute in Biblical Studies because Ann has a heart for God and ministry. She is currently working as a child and family specialist with Child Welfare Administration. She is a licensed mental health therapist, providing individual therapy and mental health to patients who have substance abuse and family needs. Ann believes everyone has the ability to change, and she too is impacting the world with her spheres of influence every day. Now I bring to you our dear Professor Sherry Adeosun.
Thank you. Welcome. So before we begin, I'd like to welcome everyone. I know Natasha gave you a wonderful welcome. So I'd like to read the objective of this event. Why are we gathered here together? The objective of this event is to support the survivors of sexual assault and rape across age group, to provide strategies to keep our children, youth protected from sexual assault and rape, to create a paradigm shift in the society regarding this topic, and also to discuss social cultural impact on rape culture, and to create a path to forgiveness and healing. That is really, really important for the survivor, a path to forgiveness and healing. So we're going to play a promotional video. Bear with us. Watch the promotional video. Okay, thank you. There was a little bit glitch in the video, but thank you for bearing with us. The video is gonna be on our website. It's gonna be on our various platforms. You can look at it again. We got lots of feedback concerning this video, and it really has been very impactful. So I'm gonna invite Anne to come and join me on the platform, and she has a comment. She's gonna start with a story. We're here to actually give a voice to the voiceless. So Han is gonna tell a story of one of the survivors. And
Thank you so much, Professor Adiosan. And the story begins. My name is Melanie, and I am starting to deal with the fact that it happened to me too. I had just moved from Puerto Rico to Miami to start my freshman year at college. I was 17, and it was 2 weeks into the semester when some friends invited me to a dorm party. I went, and soon my friends disappeared. I started drinking as soon as I got there, and I met this guy that was a junior there. We talked throughout the night, and he kept bringing me drinks. After a while, I invited him to my dorm room, which was a couple of doors away. All I wanted to do was kiss him. I thought he was really cute. He told me we should go to his place. I still have no idea why I went. When we got there, we started kissing, and he started taking off my clothes, and I let him. It was until he was about to penetrate that I told him no. I told him to stop over and over, but he wouldn't. I tried to push him away, but he grabbed my hands and pushed them against the bed. The next day, I had bruises. When he stopped, I told him to take me home. I didn't know where I was, and I was very scared. He told me he didn't take me home the next day. After he took me home, I was going to get out of the car, and he told me, "So that's how it's going to be?" And he asked for my number. I still have no idea why I gave it to him. He called me, and I always felt uncomfortable talking to him. He asked me out a couple of times, but I was so scared, and I always make up excuses. After a while, he stopped calling me, and when he saw me on campus, he would ignore me. I was a virgin, and I am now 20 years old, and you are the second person I've told. I told my best friend of many years a couple of days ago. It took me a while to face the situation. I shouldn't have left with him, and I shouldn't have drunk so much. But I can change what happened. I haven't had sex with anyone else, and I'm afraid to. I might go to the school counselor soon. I'm just trying to take it one day at a time. I'm glad I could share this story with you. Thank you for letting me tell my story. Let's support Melanie as she regains her voice.
thank you, Han. Thank you so very much. Now I'm gonna invite our wonderful, our first panelist. Okay, our first panelist is Dr. Princess Olufemi Kayode. She is the founder and the CEO of Media Concern Initiative, a non-government organization in Nigeria with focusing on sexual violence response for women and children since 2000. She has over 20 years contributed to breaking the silence on child sexual abuse and sexual violations against women, girls at both national and international communities. Our work on child sexual abuse has assisted over 12,000 direct child victims and their families, as well over 800 women and men survivors. Because we do know there are men that have victims too, right? Yes, men survivors. She is a pioneer of sexual violence response in Nigeria, opening the First Rape Crisis Center. Let's give it up to her. First Rape Crisis Center. Open up. First Race Crisis Center opened up a model in Nigeria in 2005 with 24 hours dedicated line to tape and sexual abuses, to rape, and sexual abuses, combining victims advocate counseling, mental health assessment, with access to treatment. Together with our team through media advocacy, she's been able to media advocacy. She's been able to get into national antiretroviral program. Finally, they've given access to child victims because when someone is exposed, then they have a tendency of they could have been exposed to AIDS and things like that. So she and her organization, they'll be able to connect survivors to this prophylaxis treatment. She is a criminal justice psychologist, a forensic interviewer, trauma management counselor, a child protection specialist, and sexual violence response expert with over 20 years of experience. She is an alumni fellow of United States International Visitor Leadership Program, a fellow of the prestigious International Ahsoka Fellowship. She has authored 2 books, Unveiled, Coming to Full Circle to Deal with the Scourge of Masturbation, How to Start the Sex Talk with Your Child. Very, very important topic. So she has received multiple awards and she has presented several papers at international, regional, and national conferences. She is a minister. So join us to welcome none but other than our very own woman that is making wave, touching lives for over 20 years, Dr. Princess Olufemi Kayode. So let's welcome her to this platform. Doctor, where are you? There you go. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you so much for all the preparations behind the scene. Thank you. Thank you. So, okay, I have the floor. My slides can't show, so I have to be going through my laptop, my phone, and talking. My topic is, give me a second. I'm looking at social cultural impacts on rape culture, which basically is society and rape. And we're all part of a society. We're all made and born in a particular home, born in a particular culture, born to a particular environment, and raised in a particular environment. And at the end of the day, the different experiences and the different exposure, which we call like conditioning, have it's part of what makes us who we are, how we react to things, how we feel. There are things we unconsciously and consciously just do without even thinking about why am I doing this? Basically because we've been conditioned from where we are. So society has a lot of impact on how we react to sexual violence, whether it's against a child or it's against a woman or a man, of course, girl and boy as well. So my first slide says rape myths are attitudes and beliefs that are generally false and are widely and persistently held, and that serve to deny or justify male sexual aggression against women. And this also comes from research by Bott 1980, Lonsway and Fieselgal at 1994, as well as Finwell in 2016. So it shows, I try to put the research from the past and to the nearest present. So it's not just a statement that I'm even saying from my own experience in the field, but basically on what empirical evidences show us that it has an impact. The way we think about and how we react to people, it's so much integrated into our belief systems, and they are myths. And what are myths? Myths are things that are perceived to exist but are not true, and they're also called misconceptions. So I'm going to go to my second slide. Just give me because I'm trying to walk through my slide. Was supposed to be showing to guide my conversation. So with that, I'm going to begin to raise some of the things that we see. When someone, a story was shared to us just now, a real life story of someone who had gone out with somebody, ended up being violated, raped, and saying this is the second person she's saying this to, and she still gave the person the number. You know what came to my mind is everybody will say, why would she give a number to somebody who violated you? Those are some of the things that having a better understanding of sexual violence will make us understand that there are things that you could actually do, particularly when you are not in that person's shoe. It's so easy to say, why did you do this? Or why did you not do this? Or why were you here? Why were you not there? Why were you dressed in a particular way? So my third slide says, think about it. Myths and stereotypes about sexual assault reflect a society which excuses perpetrators of assault and blames the victim. We have come up to see sex in such a way where we just blame it's the female. It's the female who is responsible. It is, why were you dressed in a particular way? Why did you talk in a particular way? Why did you go over there? Forgetting that rape happens everywhere and in many places. Rape can happen at home, can happen at school, can happen on your way home, on your way to work. Rape happens everywhere and is no respecter of persons. That means your status is irrespective, your class is irrespective, your culture irrespective, your tribe, your language, or where you come from, north, east, south, or west, hemisphere. It does not matter. It's a global challenge. It is not, to any particular sex. It's not for the poor, or for the rich, or for the intellectual. Rape happens everywhere and can happen to any person, male or female, child or adult. So think about it. It's an influence of where you were born and how you've experienced life. Why is it certain culture believe women cannot speak, and we have to make every decision for them? We decide how many babies they can have, we decide when they can marry, we decide when they can get circumcised, why they should get circumcised, when they need to get married, how many children they can have. We decide all of that. It is part of how society has made it. And even though we're still fighting all of this, some of these norms to make them understand the critical damages this does to the female and the contribution they could put into development. We have society, and we know that even in the past society, we had women who were like they were warriors. They could fight like men. They could even do better than men. Now, this is not an argument of who could do better, but we're just saying, why has society made it such a way that everything had to be decided for women? What is the fear of how much power or how much contribution a woman can do, a female can put on the table to make us go forward? So we have a norm that makes us just blame the female, and that makes it difficult for them to come out to say something happened to me. Because the first question for the story that was shared, why did she go there? Why was she drinking? Oh, to top it up, she gave him a number. Oh, she really wanted it. She was gunning for it. Oh, yes, she wanted to be violated. Yes, she was saying no, but that no meant yes, because that is how women say. It is part of societal grooming. It is part of how we've groomed our male and our females. It is part of the judge who's going to sit on a case also has been, has grown up in that same society. The police officer who is going to attend to the survivor who shows up to report is going to get the same treatment because everybody is breathing the same air. It will be so interesting for us to understand that the way we grow up in society is just. Then I say this, the actions of individuals and institutions are influenced by norms, by the values of that society, by the language and other cultural factors. And these are like dust in the air that surrounds everybody. We are all breathing the same air. It has to take an intentional decision to want to be different and to want to change some of the values that have been inculcated in us from childhood and in our life experiences and significant emotional experiences that happen to us, to be able to say, no, I am not going to treat another human being this way. And I'm not going to be a part of making another human being feel, devalued and, lose their dignity, all because that is what we accept in our society. These are some of the things that are creating and fueling the perpetration of violence against women, allowing us to be violated sexually, in every way that you could think of. Why it's continuing, why it seems like, why is it not going? Why is it not reducing? Why does it seem that it is on the increase? That's the questions that have been asked. Why does it seem that every day there is over 1,000 reports of violations, rape or abuse of a child? And to think that you start wondering, why is it so rampant? It is because we have created the culture and the acceptance that it is okay for another person to violate another person, particularly a male against a female, and it doesn't matter. Somebody will do that to you and say you can't do anything about it because he knows that you're not going to even make a report. And this is so interesting. It is part of culture. It is part of societal values and part of societal attitudes and perception that makes a victim not to report. And we also raising children who will not report because of the same perception. They look at the modeling and the things we're doing, and it's okay to just keep quiet. And someone says, if you tell anybody, I'm going to kill everybody, and the child believes everybody is going to die if she opens her mouth to say anything. And then, interesting enough, children always believe that you know. And I can assure you, children believe that as a mother or as a father, you actually know something has happened to them. And meanwhile, in the real sense, you have no idea. But children believe you are the adults, you see everything, you know everything. So you should know something happened to me, even if I can't say. And really, if that person says it's going to kill me, then truly he can kill me because you can see it and you two are not saying anything. Very intriguing. So we talk about the societal norms, which of course we know as we know. Now, there is a diagram I was supposed to share, talking about how we contribute to the violent relationships that we see. And it's very interesting, the turnout of how society impacts the person who cannot report. And then when I come to report to you, what you do to me, you re-victimize me all over by asking me questions that demean me and devalue me and make me lose more of my self-dignity and self-esteem, so much so, at the end of the day, you are also just interested in justice, which is about you winning a case, not really about me or what I want or how I'm going to cope with my life going forward. So there are quite a lot of things, that we are creating to help fuel sexual violence. Then the judiciary system is not helpful. We are part of the society. There is such a long killing tax, such drudgeous processes and procedures put before reporting. I want to come and report I've been violated, and to come and report I will spend the whole day in the police station. My time is going to be wasted. I may end up losing my job, or if I'm a parent of a child who was molested, I end up losing my job. They will even demean you, ask you questions, and make you feel like, oh, you don't know parenting. As if anybody knows parenting. Parenting is really a school we all keep going through. When you get to a point, you ask yourself, what did I do better than my parents? And then your children will come and tell you, oh, there were still some things you didn't really do. So you're also a great parent, but some things you didn't do. End of the story is society has a whole lot of impact on how it is that I said the intricacies and untold imprints of societal influence on individual affects everyone. The victim who has not gotten access to treatment or access to closure either becomes another abuser, and then there's a circle that continues, or will never be able to contribute anything to development, or their full potential will never be explored. So at the end of the day, the individual is losing, the family is losing, the society is losing, everybody is losing, and we are having more damaged people, broken people who cannot give their best to help humanity go anywhere. So, and at the rates that we are going, if 1 in 3 women have experienced sexual violation from a close person, and 1 in 4 girls before attaining 18, we can begin to look at these numbers, and 1 in 7 boys. If we begin to look at these numbers and begin to look at them as it has been said, we know that the world is in serious problem. We are in serious problem. I tried to do this calculation based on the last census in Nigeria, and it turned around that we have close to 30 million women who have been sexually violated, and about 18 or 19,000 plus men who have experienced molestation. Now, we're not talking figures, these are huge figures. We need to know that society needs to do something. I'm going to quickly read let me see my next slide quickly because I think I'm also running on time. I need to be fast. Okay, we say we have allowed excused men's violence. We have encouraged our men and our boys. We are the ones who are raising them. We have encouraged them to believe that it is okay to, it's okay to do certain things and you can get away with it. Nobody can question you. It is we. And that comes back to the mothers. We also justifiable that you find out that women are also part of this contribution because we continue that circle. Now, there are several reasons why a victim of rape will not disclose rape. Primary reason is fear of retribution, disbelief of family, or even a fear of being blamed for the rape, and frequently the fear of unsympathetic responses from the police as well as lack of faith in the judicial system. This has been confirmed by research. The devaluation of female gender, not important or relevant stakeholder, as non-important relevant stakeholder, but an onlooker in their life, in what concerns their lives. The males have all the answers. This is my quote. Based on how society perceives, the male have all the answers. Women don't have any answer. They don't have nothing. They don't know nothing. They have to be told what to do. They have to be guided on what to do. And that is the patriarchal setting. Yet the same culture values male dominance and aggressiveness and to create a subculture that sanctions sexual violence. That is what we have. It is acceptable. It is okay. Now we have more teenage and preteens in pornography, addicted. Not only that, they are also into gang raping. They are also into cults where all they do is get other girls to send nude pictures and then they blackmail them that they're going to expose their pictures. This is the children we are raising. This is the society who are accepted that it's okay to do it. And they are finding, we can't see young ones continuing the same trend because it is what we have entrenched in the society that it is okay. You are the guys, you are the boys, you can do anything and you can get away with it. It is time that we need to begin to change, the setup, we need to change the condition, we need to change the narrative, we need to stand up and say, no, it's no more. And we have to be intentional about all of this. I'm going to just round up because of time. I'm also looking at the lifetime. And here I'm going to be talking about everything. The most important thing is you. You that you're watching me right now, you that you have access to this show, you are on. You are the first person in the change. Why? Examine your values, examine your beliefs. It is so important that we have to know, what do I believe in? Sometimes you don't even know that unconsciously we have certain things that, it's just like telling me, do I want to, I'm trying to look for something that I could use as an example. And I don't need to think about my response. I'll just respond. Unconsciously, I will even say the no. Before you finish the question, you find yourself answering some certain questions that you already have the answer to it, and you didn't think of it. These are the unconscious things that you have in you and your values with it. Let me give you an example. During the HIV, when people were becoming infected with HIV, it was very unknown. Nobody knew what was going on. HIV was so scary. And so when people were coming out, to say, or they tested, people looked at them like they were adulterous people, or they were loose people, they were dirty people. Why was that conclusion being made? Based on values and beliefs. You didn't need to think it. He's a dirty person, he's a sinner. Oh, he's dirty, he's adulterous or fornicator. That is why he has HIV, because sex was the major means of transmission. So it meant, and we found out later that people were actually being infected through blood transfusion, some through dental, going to visiting the dentist. So, but our values and our beliefs made us to conclude, no, that's how it is. When somebody says a child cannot be molested, that is that person's value and belief system that makes him not to believe that nobody can touch a child. So we have such issues to deal with that, yes, I may not believe things are happening in the world that I do not know of, and they are real to the people that it happened to them. We need to begin to be able to be in the place of empathy and not sympathy. To know that certain things can happen to people just because it didn't happen to you, just because you were never exposed to that kind of, thing, or you never even got to know things that even happen. There are people like that, but then it does not mean that it's not happening in the world. Just because now in my country right now it is evening and there's still daylight, in some places around the world watching right now it is dark or it is just morning. And just because it's not my morning does not make it unreal. These are the things we need to make sure we need to get to understand, that it is things that we need to establish and get to know that the world is not all that we see. And we cannot insist that our world that we have to ourselves is the only way life works. There are things we don't understand. And because I don't understand does not mean it doesn't happen. And there are things that because I may not want to believe it does not mean that it did not really happen to somebody. It did. I mean, I sit down every day and I receive stories, and there are times I'm a survivor, and at the times I just say nothing happened to me. I mean, no. When you hear somebody else's story, you go, oh my God, that person went through that. No, then nothing happened to me, because you will see other people's story and know that, oh God, some terrible things are happening in the world. Like I said, we're having teenagers gang raping, recording and sending those videos out, trying to humiliate and mess up people, because we as the adults and our own parents who raised us and the society continuously, we need to create that break in transmission of what has existed, that we need to be more compassionate. Every human being has rights to life, to safety, to development, to utterance, to flourish, and can bring betterness to the world. We don't know, there are still many things to be invented, there are still many things to be developed, there are still many things to be done. We have not finished, and there are things that every individual can bring into the world. Until we agree that it starts with me, I need to re-examine myself and make sure that I'm doing something well to the world. And I'm going to end with Nelson Mandela's quote. He said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Now, education is not going to the classroom. Now, I'm not talking about going to the classroom and sitting down and somebody teaching you. We are here, we're having this conversation. That's part of education. You need to change your mind about how you view certain things. Now, I know that even amongst us stakeholders who are on the field, there are people who still have some funny values and belief systems. We who are working as first responders, as law enforcement, to those who are responding to survivors who have experienced sexual or gender-based violence, we need to know that not every case is the same. Not every case is the same. Whether it is singular rape, or it is gang rape, or it is child sexual abuse, defilement, whatever form that has happened to a person, there are persons that attempted rape will be their own experience, and that could damage them for life. There are people that will go through gang rape and it seems nothing really happened to them. It's because we are individuals, our experiences, our history are different. We do not respond to things the same way. We've got to know that every human being is unique and important. And as a society, we need to protect, we need to give opportunity for potentials to be developed, and we need to know that we can have a voice and say no to male aggression, no to dehumanizing a violated person in any form. We've got to do that together as a people, so that the rape culture that has continued to ask questions, why were you there? What did you go and do? It is because you were behaving in a way. Imagine a mother saying that her 7-year-old daughter was a demon who is seducing adult men. These are kind of stories I have heard and I have seen, experiences. How can a 7-year-old? We have seen cases where a mother will say her 10-year-old daughter was seducing her boyfriend, who is 45. Belief system. Why would we think those kind of things? Where would a 10-year-old learn how to seduce a 45-year-old man if that child had not been introduced to it already? And if the child has not been introduced into that, because we say it in this work, it's either a child sees it or a child is touched. If that child has not experienced either of it, then somebody touched the child. And we need to begin to change our mindset. There needs to be a major paradigm shift for us to know that the society needs to wake up globally, wake up. There is serious, praise on the loose, and we need to make sure that we are raising our children in ways where their self-esteem are powerful, they're strong, their individualism is expressed, and we do not, when those thoughts of those funny values and beliefs come up, whether religious, we need to halt ourselves and tell ourselves, stop there. What is in the best interest of this person, whether a child or a woman? How can I be of help to make life better for this person who has been violated, not how to make life more horrible? So we can have more people who have been violated come out and get the help that they need, both mental health, both our assessment as well as treatment, whether it is just to stop HIV or hepatitis B and any other, viral sexually transmitted infections and other infections, or even getting pregnant from rape. All of these things can be stopped on time. And then we will stop populating the world with people who are not ready to take care of children who don't even have no idea. A lot of teen pregnancies happening from gang rapes. And I hope that you will join me and take a serious assessment of how you perceive sexual and gender-based violence. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Kayode. Oh my God, you really took us to school. I had my notes. I couldn't write fast enough. Thank you. Thank you. Change starts with me, right, Doctor? You said that. The change starts with me. And you also said, those things that I grew up hearing, oh, boys will be boys. Oh, you're 16. You still having sex with that girl? You just playing around? Come on. You got to do the real thing. So those kind of upbringing sort of at times numbs us to certain things that are really like danger zone. Thank you for really spotlighting those wonderful things. We have to find ways to break that cycle. We have to break it.
Yes.
We have to think differently. We need to have that paradigm shift. And I think I had a little bit today. Thank you so very much. And we really
Thank you.
like Dr. Princess Olufemi Kayode, from the CEO of Media Concern Initiative. Let's give it up. Let's thank her for even
Thank
honoring
you.
her with our presence. We honor you for all the work you're doing. It's not a popular work. It's not a popular thing that everybody wants to be involved in. It's not something that makes you into a celebrity, but it's something you do tirelessly behind the scene, making our street, making our community a safer place, not just for our girls, also for our boys, our men, and our women. Thank you for that excellent work you do in Nigeria. We honor
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone. Thank you. That was wonderful. Put it in the chat. How do you feel about that presentation? Tell us in one word. How do you feel about that wonderful presentation? So we know people are watching from YouTube and Facebook. We want to welcome you again and thank you for being a part of this wonderful presentation. I'm going to show a video with you now. I'm going to share a video with you. Just listen up. Okay, so that shift is already happening. It's happening in Nairobi, in Kenya. It's happening in Nigeria. It's happening in America. It's happening in New York. That change to understand that because somebody is wearing a miniskirt or because they dress a certain way, then they have to be the target of a sexual assault. That power that we're giving our boys to begin to treat the women with respect and love and cherish, it makes a difference. creating a shift in their mindset at a very, very early age. So that is wonderful. So the next thing I'm going to do, we're going to share with you a story, because this is really, we're giving the voice to the voiceless. So this is a story of a young man, the story of Isaac. By the age of 13, Isaac, struggling with gender identity, trying to discover himself, started to explore certain lifestyle, but that kind of exploration often leave a 13-year-old boy very vulnerable. Isaac was soon dating, in quote, a man who is several decades older than him. Only much later did he begin to see the coercion, the abuse that was intrinsic to the relationship. But that was not the only trauma that he had to endure at the early age of 13. One night, he snuck out of his home and went with some friends to a party at a nearby college campus. Late in the evening and alone upstairs, he was ambushed by someone who physically restrained him and raped him. Isaac swore himself to secrecy, but burying a rape secret is not possible. So Isaac found help in alcohol. I thought that was the best way to cope with it because I couldn't tell anyone. I had made that decision. For a while, Isaac coped. Gradually, depression seeps in, and Isaac began a long sequence of treatment. But the secret remained. It was a violent fight with his stepfather that finally released the secret. Manhandled into helplessness while being verbally abused, the rape came flooding back. Isaac became suicidal. Isaac's journey back from that experience had helped many people, including, it was helped by many people, including a nurse who quietly disclosed of her own sexual victimization and gave him a crucial spark to hope. With the help of others and his own perseverance, Isaac has emerged from trauma with a resilient core and a magnetic smile. Now a junior in college, he is pre-med and looking forward to a career in medicine. That is a story of one of her children, a young adult who went through this horrible experience as a 13-year-old. But just like we heard from Dr. Coyote, because of the disbelief of family, a lot of these young people cannot even share this experience, even while it's still going on for them to be protected. So we need to listen to our children. We need to be mindful of the people around them. Our job as parents, mothers, and fathers is to protect them and be that person that supports them. Okay, so I'm gonna call on Han and come on down. She's gonna introduce the next panelist.
Okay, thank you, Professor Adiosan. And let's pray that Isaac regains his voice. I am honored to present our next panelist, Pastor Aduke Obe. Pastor Aduke Obe is a visionary leader who serves as the senior pastor of House of Refuge Nigeria. She presides over Daughters of Sarah, Women's Fellowship International, a non denominational ministry that seeks to bring out spiritual renewal amongst women. She is also the executive director of the Honey Rock Academy. She's an educator, a health and life coach, and mentor to many. Pastor Aduke's revelatory insight makes her a sought after speaker locally and internationally. Her pastoral experience cuts across children, singles, Sunday school, premarital and marriage counseling, and family life ministries. She has a background in health, education, events, and human development, which helps her to overpower others to fulfill purpose. Her passion for family and its reformation is evident in all she does. She has a degree in healthcare administration from New England College and postgraduate certificate in school management and leadership from Harvard Business School. She's married, she's a mother, and a grandmother. Welcome, Pastor Aduke.
Thank you, Anne. And thank you, everybody. Hi. Thank you to Sherry to having me on the platform today. So our topic before me is the role of the family in the rape culture. Well, we've heard Dr. Princess speak, and she touched on quite a few things, a few pertinent points. As shocking as the statistics on rape might be, it is likely still underestimated as many cases still go unreported. So while we talk about rape, it stirs a lot of emotions in different people. For some people, it's tears. For some people, it's laughter. For some people, it's like a sadical attitude. But the rape culture is one that must not be tolerated. Unfortunately, we find that the society has tolerated it, and for such a long time in certain parts in Nigeria, for example, it's something that is always hushed up. So rape is indeed a violation of one's body. It's a violation of rights, and a right that belongs to no one, regardless of the situation and where they find themselves. To change this culture, it must start with you. So I guess that's one of the things you're going to repeatedly hear, that it's going to start with you. Yes, you. It must start with me, and that's why I'm doing this. So you begin to think about what are you going to do after this. I believe the essence and one of the main objective of this program is not just for today. It's not just for the 2 hours, but it's to give you enough information that you can decide what you're going to do with the information you are receiving. Victims and perpetrators are both members of a family. The judge that is going to be listening is still a member of a family. The policeman that you're going to report to is belongs to a family. So we are all members of families. So family is key. So in our family, we don't want to have victims, neither do we want any member of our family to be raped. So when we talk about the role and the relevance and the importance of family, we cannot overemphasize the role and significance it plays in our society and in changing and shaping lives. Family is the core of any society. It is the bedrock of the society. Most often, cultural biases are learned within the family, whether known or unknown to them. It is learned within the family. You'll find that there are certain biases that people have, and the way people behave towards, let's just talk about the race bias. Most of the times it's learned in the family by comments and things that goes on in the family. Otherwise, a child that grows up in a contrary environment doesn't learn those kinds of biases. So the family is usually our first learning ground. It's usually our first learning place. So the family environment can present as either a risk or a protective factor. A risk factor has the characteristics that when it presents itself, it promotes the adoption of harmful behavior. Children that witness domestic violence tend to be violent themselves. Dr. Princess mentioned about a child that was molested at age 13, also grew up and found himself in the same shoes. Children that were violated as boys, they themselves grow up and become abusers themselves as adults. So dysfunction has a tendency to always breed dysfunction without a level of intentionality. I will say that again. Dysfunction has a tendency to breed dysfunction without a level of intentionality. And what am I talking about here is we have to be intentional about it. We have to be intentional as mothers. We have to be intentional as fathers. We have to remember that the God that we serve is a God of posterity. He consistently is looking out for the next generation, to preserve the next generation. Our generation is never just about ourselves, it's always about the next generation. And the more interest you have on the next generation, the more significance you attract to yourself. So just like everyone should promote social norms, it starts in the home. It starts in the home. The values we have and believe in are the same values we must instill into our daughters and into our sons. Our values, our family values are the values of individual parents. They are the values that we bring into the family as individuals. And so that's why our individual values are very crucial. What do you believe in? We must be intentional about it, and we must consistently reflect on our beliefs. When we speak, when we do things, when we say things, when we hear things, we need to reflect on them. Because there are times we all have blind spots. There are times as an individual, it's easy for you to pick on something that someone is saying and find so many reasons why that statement is right, is wrong, why it's a biased statement, why it's a racial statement, and whatever. But sometimes, if we don't reflect within ourselves, we might find ourselves doing the same thing. And I know quite a number of times people say one thing outside, but when it comes to the home, it's different. It's easy for us to say, oh, that boy shouldn't have done that. But at home, are you telling your child the same thing? That's where it starts. So we must have values that project the fear of God and respect, equity, and fairness, and instill these values into our children. Both our sons and our daughters need to hear this truth. Rape culture is defined as stereotyped, false beliefs about rape that justify sexual aggression and trivialize the seriousness of sexual violence. Now, we've heard things like, it's the way she dresses. Why did she drink? Why did she have to drink? We've heard two stories today, and I'm sure there's one or two people sitting down there saying, well, why did she follow him to his room? Why did she drink? Why, all the whys. I keep saying it is irrelevant to the fact that someone was violated. Someone was violated, and no one should be violated. No one has the right to violate another person's body for whatever reason. The way she behaved, no means yes. You hear things like she didn't scream when it was happening. Sometimes fear paralyzes people, fear numbs people. I pray, we pray we will never find ourselves in those kinds of situations. So, but it's wrong. It's something that we should not condone any longer. The person that has been victimized is already a victim, and certainly does not need all the empathy that they can get from us. The rape culture is allowed to continue when we buy into the ideas of masculinity, which Dr. Princess had talked about, ideas that see violence as dominance, as being strong and being a male, ideas that see women and girls as people of less value. No, the Bible says in Genesis 1:27-28, God created man and woman in his image. In the image of God, he created the male and female, and he blessed them and said to them, go, be fruitful and multiply. God did not create a man in his image and then a woman in another kind of image. They are both made in the image and likeness of God. So they are of equal value before God. And these are one of the principles, one of the values we must begin to instill into our children. When I talk about this, I get a bit very passionate about it because it's not just about talking about it, it's also about living the life. Because a number of times we can talk, we can teach, but then children, when growing up, they learn by the things that they see. They seldom do the things. I'm sure every one of us can testify to that. They seldom do the things that they hear. They do the things that they see. They do the things that they see. So my daughter some time ago played a game with me and said, "Mommy, she said, touch your chin." And you know what I did? I did this because she was pointing to her cheek, but she was telling me, touch your chin. So I was doing what I saw her do rather than touch my chin. She said, "Mommy, touch your chin, your chin." And I said, "Yeah, I'm touching my chin." So children do what I am an adult, but yet I was doing what I saw her do. So how much more children? They do the same thing. So we as parents, how do we parent our children? The Bible says in Proverbs 22, verse 6, it says, "Train up a child on the way he should go, and when he is old, he shall not depart from it." Those are values that we must instill into our children, and no matter where they find themselves, those values will continue to speak. How we train our children matters. It speaks of the family values that we have and the family life culture that we practice at home. And these things are what the society hinge upon. Whenever we find dysfunction in families, you cannot but find a dysfunctional society because the people in the society are individuals that come from a family. So we have to stop focusing only on the girls. Yeah, focusing only on the girls. We must learn that we must focus on the girls and the boys, because when we focus on the girls, we'll let the boys become wolves about town. And that is what we see happening. Dr. Princess talks about gang raping. You know, when she mentioned it, I sat down to think about it again. What will make young boys just get up and think that it's okay for 3, 4, 5 of them to gather together and molest a girl, violate her right, violate her body? It sounds like a taboo, you know. And you think, with these children, were they inculcated with these values at all? So boys need to be trained, and not just the girls. And saying things like boys will be boys, I began to wonder sometimes, what do we mean by that statement? I'm sure most of us say that boys will be boys and girls will be girls. What does that mean? Well, in the context of boys would always be rough, they will play rough, fine. But you find that there are times when we talk to girls, when we talk to girls about values, you must be chaste, you must keep yourself. I think the first story we heard, the lady said she was a virgin. Do we talk to boys? Somehow I've heard parents that feel that boys being virgins are outdated. It doesn't exist. It does exist. But we need to let our children see that as fathers, is that what your child is seeing? And we need to get real. When fathers are dating daughters young enough to be their children, that's a value right there. You are sending a message to your sons that women are of no value. You are sending a message to your son that marriage is irrelevant. So these are the kinds of messages that have been imbibed and incorporated into the lives of our sons, and they go out there and they exhibit it whatever way. So when a girl says no, they don't listen. And they find reasons, and we give them more reasons to justify this kind of life. Rape culture is pervasive. It is embedded in the way that we think, the way we speak, and the way we move in the world. It's embedded in the things that we permit, the things that we allow. I keep saying silence. The silence about a matter doesn't mean that you disapprove. silence could easily mean that you approve also. And that's why we must speak up. And that's why I want to commend Relium for this program, to put such a program out there, to give the voice to the voiceless. I thank God for your lives, and I thank God for this vision, because there are a lot of people out there that are silent over things that we shouldn't be silent about. It shows your values, the value you have for lives. So rape culture, it might differ in the context, they differ, but most of the times they are rooted in patriarchal beliefs, power and control. Beliefs and attitudes that permeate this culture are attitudes about gender identities, the policies that we support in our communities. So we can take action today and stand against this rape culture. Naming it is the first thing you need to do. You need to name it. We can affect and reach our children at the most impressionable ages. I was glad when I keep calling you Pastor, Princess, was closing up with education. Education alone is by no means a panacea to this. We understand that. But it is without a doubt a good and a healthy place to start, to get the mind of people enlightened about these things, to give the voice to the voiceless, to hear how a victim feels. And a lot of perpetrators, I keep saying this, are also people that are struggling with underlying issues. And quite a number of these issues are issues that also have originated from childhood, and they have not had the opportunity to talk about it, to put a closure, to bring in forgiveness. So there are still so many other things that we can look at in this area. But today I just want to stay focused in this area, on this part. So teaching our girls, not just our male sons or our male boys, must start early. It must start at home. It must take place in the church. It must take place in the schools. It must take place in the community. It is our response. It must start at home. It must start at home. It goes beyond what we can do to prevent girls from being victims, but to also include the attitude that our boys have about women and about masculinity. Because you're a guy doesn't mean you should go sowing wild oats, because a number of times that is what you hear: go sow wild oats. That is not the reason why you are a man. That doesn't make you a man. The actions that men take to promote mutual respect, we must ensure that our sons are brought up to respect one another, to respect women, and never to take advantage of another. So whether a girl is half naked, I don't promote indecent dressing, but my point still stands. Whether she's walking on the street naked, that is her prerogative. If she says no, no is no. So these are the things we must teach our children: self-control, self-discipline. Responsibility for the eradication of sexual assaults rests with the whole community. And that's why I said it must start with you. It must start with you. So prevention begins with us addressing the cultural values like we are doing today, and the supports that we can give to the victims. So what can you do to gain this paradigm shift that we have been talking about as I begin to round up? As much as I said earlier that I don't condone indecent dressing, and I'm sure quite a number of us do not, it is ethically and it is morally wrong to violate a person's will. I keep saying that even our God, our maker, the creator of man, the creator of the heavens and the earth, does not violate our will. Interestingly, he has given us the power of choice. And so therefore, it is totally improper. And these are the principles, the values that we must teach our children. You do not violate another person's rights. You do not violate another person's body. So we let them know that they've got to be respectful to each other. And these are the things that we do at home. We let them see it at home. Your daughters shouldn't you shouldn't let your sons watch TV or play outside while the girls are in the kitchen. Every one of them, you could have division of labor, you could share it around at home. When you are talking to your daughters about how to dress, we need to talk to our sons also about how to dress. Because yes, boys too need to know how to dress with the kinds of dressing that goes on today, the sagging and all the other things that they do. When we talk about our girls about being chaste, chastity is not gender selective. We need to talk to our sons about that also. When we talk to our children about friends, what kind of friends do we keep? Do we tell our children to choose godly friends and good friends, but then they see us with friends of questionable character, and they listen to the kinds of conversations that you are having? You are also sending a message. When we get excited, parents, we find that in some homes, you find that there are homes where pornography is the order of the day. This should not be at all. So these are the things that we should ensure that are not ongoing in our families, are not ongoing in our homes. Is your home a safe haven for your child? Your home should be a safe haven for your child. And your child come home and talk to you about the things that she's going through or he's going through. Because as our sons also, we need to create that channel. We say men don't cry. Who says Jesus wept? So we need to take away all these norms and things that we have helped to create a kind of culture for our sons, that when they have issues, they are not able to express themselves, they're not able to talk about it. Some time ago, I was talking to a young man, and in the midst of our conversation, he broke down and he wept. He wept like a baby. And I allowed him to, because, and I said to him, you need to get that out. It's okay to cry. It's okay to cry. You have feelings, you have expressions. You need to be able to express them. It's okay. So we need to throw all those things out of the window and let these young ones, the next generation, and even those that are already out there, get the understanding that it's okay to be human. It's okay to cry. When they have weaknesses and they have struggles, can they come home and talk to you about it? So we need to create that atmosphere to help our sons become all that God has called them to be, and not these wolves that are roaming about the streets, because that is not who they are. Some of them have issues that they have not been able to talk about. We must disapprove of sexist jokes that talks down on women, or degrading things that come up on social media. Even if it's a private message or in a group, we should not tolerate it. We should teach our children to intervene, and we also should intervene when we find problems or unhealthy behaviors that should be addressed, rather than cover it or turn to the opposite side. And we should also let them know that they should never be involved in such things when it's happening around them. So I believe that we have seen one or two things or reasons why the family is key if rape culture must come to a complete halt. It starts with the home. It starts with the family, which is the bedrock of every society. Your values do matter. your sons and your daughters should get the same amount of time in talking, in training. Self-control applies not just to the girl, but also to the boy child. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Obey. Such a wealth of information. A lot was taken away from this. And I'm glad that you said about it starts at home, because this is not a platform just about girls or women. It's not, they're not the only ones that get raped, right? Boys get raped also, right? So, this thing about let's go out and tell your boys, sow your wild oats. What is that? What is the wild oats? And when they're sowing it, who are they sowing it with? Right? More than violating our girls, more than violating young women, right? So
Yeah.
such a wealth of information. I got a lot so much away from this. I got dysfunction has a tendency to breathe dysfunction. And it starts from home. Silence, breeds contempt. So we have to talk to our children about being able to communicate, but we have to start that communication. As you said, children do what they see, not what they hear. Right. So if we
Yeah.
continue to communicate and teach them to communicate, that will open up a door that when they go through stuff, they know that they can talk to us. Right. It is so important for communication to be open.
Yeah.
We have to stop re-victimizing the victims.
Yeah. That should stop.
Both boys and girls are victimized. But when we point fingers and we say, well, you should have, and you should have said no, or you should have run, or you should have walked away, you're putting back the blame on that victim. And when they grow up, guess what happens? Hurt people hurt people.
But others, yeah.
Right? So it's a cycle, and when does it stop? When does it end? So thank you so much, Dr. Obey. We have gotten that wealth of information. It was truly, truly an honor, presenting you and just listening to all of your information. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm going to start with the next story. Hi, my name is Natalie. I'm 12 years old. It started when I was 7, I think. It started with a kiss. Then it went to touching my breast and my private parts. He told me it was our little secret. He will buy me McDonald's and candy. I love McDonald's. Then he started to pick me up from school in his van, big white van. We will park the van in the churchyard because he was a deacon in the church, so nobody knew. He would tell me what to do to him, and he will do it back to me. I liked it. It's been 5 years now, and we do it every day after school in the van. Then he will take me out to eat, and I love to eat. He gave me a ring, told me that he loved me. Now my mother told him he had to leave the house because they had a fight. Yes, he was my mother's boyfriend. We all lived together. He still comes and pick me up even after leaving the house from school in the van, but my mother does not know. Now my mother got me upset because she upset my man. Now I have to tell what happened. I don't want to tell her because it's my secret with him. They arrested him and want me to tell them everything, but I said no. And I'm telling it to you, and I'm telling it to you because I want everyone to finally just leave me alone because I love him. Why you keep calling me a victim? I'm not a victim. I liked it. Yes, I'm 12 years old. So let's let's promote a space where Natalie can have her voice. Give the voice back to the voiceless.
I mean, Miss Anne, that's some story you just shared. And Natalie is thinking this is something good. Natalie doesn't even know that she's being abused.
Right.
And our job as parents, as healthcare professional, as people in the community is to protect the children.
Right.
So thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. Now we're gonna share a video. Okay, let me see how that will work in a minute. You can hear it? Oh. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing the video. Apparently, you guys cannot hear it. So I'm gonna try again. Okay, let's try one more time.
The horror films. Let me just ask her. Nicole! Hey, Nicole! You want to watch Werewolf versus Zombie Vampire 6? Okay. Well, she didn't say no, so count us in. Sexual consent means that both people are actively willing to engage in a particular sexual behavior and express their consent by saying, yes, that's okay with me. But just because someone consents to engage in one kind of behavior does not mean that they have agreed to engage in another. Hello? It's you again. God, this is the third time today. No, I don't care if this is my once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get the sucker 3000 vacuum cleaner. Please, just stop harassing me. Sexual harassment is a type of bullying intended to hurt or intimidate someone. It can include making sexual jokes, comments, or gestures to or about someone, spreading sexual rumors in person, by text, or online, writing sexual messages about people on bathroom stalls or in other public places, showing someone inappropriate sexual pictures or videos, touching, grabbing, or pinching someone in a deliberately sexual way, asking someone to send you naked pictures of herself or himself, pulling at someone's clothing, and brushing up against someone in a purposefully sexual way. If you are being harassed, don't blame yourself. The idea that someone was asking for it because of something they did, said, or were wearing is false and unacceptable. It often can be helpful to start by telling the person doing the harassing to stop. Let him or her know that this behavior is not okay with you. If that doesn't stop the harassment, don't just ignore the behavior. Usually, ignoring it won't make it stop. Instead, tell a trusted adult about it. Telling someone sooner leads to faster results.
Sexual assault is when someone does something sexual to another person without getting their permission first. That can include anything from touching someone's genitals, breast, or butt, inserting something into any of their body parts, or showing them something sexual when they haven't given their explicit consent. If he assaults you in any way, first remember that it's not your fault. No matter who you were with, how you were dressed, or what you were doing, You have nothing to feel guilty about, period. If anyone ever rapes you or hurts you in any way, get to a hospital fast. Tell them what happened, and they can help you take the steps to prevent illness or pregnancy and get you to the additional support you'll need. Most importantly, you should tell someone you trust, like your mom or a school counselor. You can tell them face to face, over text, on the phone, or however you're most comfortable. Talking to us was a good start.
Until next time, don't forget to visit me at amaze.org or go to my YouTube channel to watch more. Bye!
Yes. Hold on 1 second. Thank you for that video. That was a good video. Can you guys hear me? Can you tell me in the chat? Hold on 1 second. Okay, thank you. That was really a very insightful video. So I'm gonna introduce our next panelist, who is really, a powerful speaker. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. I'm sorry, hold on. I'm hearing some noise in the background. I'm trying to resolve it. Okay, thank you. So I'm back now. Okay, so I'm going to introduce my wonderful partner in righteousness, Mrs. Samantha Corian. She is a sexual assault nurse examiner and a registered nurse for over 14 years, currently serving as the supervisor with the nurses for the NYC Department of Education. Samantha's qualification extends beyond being a certified adult sexual assault nurse examiner, SANE, and a New York State sexual assault forensic examiner. She began her career as a registered nurse at Kings County Hospital Adult Emergency Department, a level 1 trauma center in Brooklyn. After completing a master's degree as an advanced practice nurse in 2017, she began working as a nurse educator and the NYC Office of School Health. A promotion to staff development coordinator shortly followed, where she was instrumental in policy development and training school nurses across New York City. In addition to working for NYC Department of Health, she has personally treated and cared for hundreds of acute rape and sexual assault survivors. With her sexual assault nurse examiner, Samantha has become a very competent expert witness. Within the past 5 years, she has testified in over 20 rape sexual assault cases for the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office and is highly regarded by the DA. Samantha is she's very devoted to serving her community. She believes that it is important to treat each other with love, compassion, and this is evidence-based care. Her dedication and commitment has been evident by her diligent participation in numerous community outreaches and educational activities over the last decade. She has also served as an advisory board member on the Queensborough Community College Nursing Board, as well as the Children's Health Fund Advisory Board. Samantha holds active professional membership with the International Association of Forensic Nurses, the National Association of School Nurses, and the National Association of University Women. A strong commitment to the community is vital. However, our most important role is being a devoted wife and mother to Mr. Aaron Corian. I call him K.A. And their 5 beautiful children, my wonderful nieces and nephews. Join me to welcome Samantha Corian. You have to unmute yourself, Samantha.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. What an introduction. Thank you, Sherry. And I just want to say good afternoon to everyone. It's an honor and privilege to be here this afternoon, especially after those amazing panelists. They shared so much wealth of knowledge with us. But as Sherry mentioned, and I'm an advanced practice nurse. I've been a registered nurse for 14 years. However, I think the passion and the drive in my variety of experience goes to sexual assault nursing always. And why is that? Is because as a sexual assault nurse examiner, I have the opportunity to collect forensic evidence. And that forensic evidence actually puts away the perpetrators. And that gives a voice to the voiceless. So this afternoon, I would like to share my take on implicit bias as it relates to sexual assault. I have a little presentation I would like to share. Please hang tight. I'm hoping that this will cooperate with me. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Not yet, Samantha.
Are you guys able to see my screen?
No, Samantha, not yet. Are you guys seeing it from your hand? Let me see what
try.
it is.
Let me try
Okay.
one more time.
I can try for you. Let me try. Let me try. Then if I can, then you go ahead.
Okay, because it's saying that it's sharing. I'm not sure.
Okay, let me see. You can let me know if you are seeing it from my hand if I start to share it.
Okay, sounds good.
But it's really like temperamental.
I know. I
So
feel like this afternoon the technology is kind of with us when it wants to be, right, Sherry?
Yes, it just messes with us.
So just give us a moment as we're sharing. Are you getting it, Sherry?
It's loading. Let me just give it a minute and let me know if you're seeing it. Are you able to see it?
Yep,
Okay.
I see it is loading.
Someone can remove me, come on another screen, and I don't want to like go back and mess it up. So just tell me when to move the slide.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much for that, Sherry. I appreciate it. So again, I just wanted to share this afternoon what implicit bias is and what is implicit bias as it relates to sexual assault. You can advance the next slide. Thank you.
Did it advance from your hand?
Okay, now I see it. So what is implicit bias? Number one, what is implicit bias? Implicit bias, it's one of those tricky things, and I have to bring this home because Sherry is very passionate about implicit bias, and we have to understand what does implicit bias mean. So let's advance the next slide and get a simple definition as it relates to implicit bias. So implicit bias refers to the stereotypes, both negative and positive, that exist in our subconscious and affect our behavior. Because the bias is unconscious, it is hard for us to realize that it's embedded in our mindsets and belief. So what's an example of implicit bias? I'll break it down pretty simple. So let's think about gender qualities, right? Men as leaders, women as supporters, right? That's one of the implicit biases that we may hold in our mind as individuals. Or if you hear peanut butter, you automatically think jelly, right? So this is stuff that's been ingrained in our minds. And there's been many studies to just show how implicit bias affects us and our mindset. And it's important for us to understand that we do have this in our mind. Okay. So let's just advance to the next slide to talk so we could dive in a little bit deeper and see how implicit bias relates to sexual assault. Advance the next slide, please. Thank you. So what role does implicit bias play in sexual assault? So rape myths, and the panelists before me, Dr. Princess and Pastor just kind of mentioned about rape myths and assumptions and stereotypes that are harmful and hinder our society from effectively dealing with and eradicating sexual violence. Let's advance the next slide. So some common stereotypes about some common stereotypes and myths about sexual violence are as follows. So I'm going to take you guys on a little bit of a train ride about myths and what's the actual facts about sexual assault and sexual violence as it relates to individuals and survivors, as I like to call them. No one is a victim when it comes to sexual assault in my eyes. They're survivors. So let's explore some of these common stereotypes. Next slide, please. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so our first myth that we're going to explore is some people ask for it, right? By dressing provocatively or drinking too much. And I think we touched on this all afternoon, but the actual fact is no one asks for sexual assault or deserves to be sexually assaulted. The way a person dresses, how much they drink, or if they use drugs, this does not mean that a person gives up the right to say what happens to their body. And we need to remember that when we think as a society, like, you know, she asked for it, or this is what she wanted, or why did she have to wear that short dress? That doesn't matter. What matters is that that person has a right to their body and no one else determines that right. Next slide, please. So next slide. Sexual assault is committed by men upon female victims. So this is a big myth. Everyone feels like, you know, the female, she's the victim, poor thing. But in actuality, sexual assault can be committed by any gender identity upon another gender identity. Sexual assault can happen to any person regardless of gender identity or sexual orientation or identity. So this is something we have to be mindful of, because at the end of the day, you know, this is not a female thing or a male thing. This is a gender thing or a gender identity thing. It can happen to anyone at any given time. Thank you for advancing the slide. So next myth. Some men just can't help themselves. If the girl is really beautiful and sexy, you know, I just have to do what I have to do, right? No. The actual fact is this type of thinking is just downright wrong and harmful for a variety of reasons. This type of myth supposes that men have no way of controlling themselves, as well as assumingly wrongly that the sexual assault is about lust and attraction. Make no mistake, sexual assault is an act of violence and aggression. Sexual assault is less motivated by attraction and more motivated by the feeling that someone needs to exert power and control over another. These types of men also assume wrongly that sexual assault is always perpetrated by a male upon a female, as discussed earlier. Next slide. So here's another myth. Someone who was truly raped will be hysterical and upset when they talk about what happened. So everyone has a picture in their mind, like the victim should look distraught or the survivor should be really sad. But in actuality, individuals may process trauma differently than others. A victim of sexual violence may go through a variety of emotions, or they may be numb. There is no perfect, right? No perfect reaction that is true, that a true victim or survivor will display. So this is a big myth. Next slide, please. So this is a powerful slide, and I think this myth is one that we all need to just take a look at and just really digest, for lack of a better word. If people would just avoid dangerous areas, then they wouldn't need to worry about being sexually assaulted. The actual fact is sexual assault is more likely to occur in a residence rather than down a dark alley. Most victims know their attacker, whether it is an acquaintance, someone who they thought was a friend, or a current or former intimate partner. So here's another myth. It wasn't rape if the victim didn't physically fight back. The fact is, someone who's being sexually assaulted has to do what they feel is best in order to survive the assault. And sometimes people freeze with fear. Other times, even just a threat, implied or directly stated, of physical violence will make someone comply with the attacker's demand. Every person responds differently. Just because someone does not physically fight back does not mean that they consented to what happened. Next slide. Thank you. So here's a big myth. A real rape, in quote, victim reports to the police what happened right away. Someone who waits to report or just reports it to the school is probably lying or just wants to get revenge on someone. That is a huge myth. Sometimes victims of sexual assault are just so sad that they don't even know how to process what happened to them. So the actual fact of the matter is, delayed reports in sexual assaults are actually very common and do not signify that someone is lying. Sometimes victims need to process what has occurred to them, and it may take time for them to feel safe to come forward. When the people involved in a sexual misconduct situation know each other well and have a prior relationship or mutual social circles, it is not at all uncommon for a victim to feel fearful of reporting. And just because someone needs time to process and weigh their options does not mean that they're making a false report. It is not easy to talk about being sexually assaulted. It may cause the person to relive what happened to them. Often there is fear that others will not believe them or blame them for their own attack. Next slide, please. Thank you. So myth, if someone does not say no, then they must have wanted to have sex. And I think that video that was just shown is very important. And the reason is consent is super important. It is never a good idea to assume that absence of a no means yes. Yes means yes. Consent should be clear, knowing, and involuntary. It is never assumed from silence. When a person displays hesitation or reluctance, the person initiating sexual contact has an obligation to get effective consent before proceeding further. And at this point, I would say, please speak with your children about the importance of consent. The sooner children learn about the importance of consent and asking for permission, the clearer consensual sexual intercourse becomes. So have those conversations with your sons and daughters. Before you have sex with someone, make sure they want to have sex. Ask them, is it okay for us to have sex together? Don't assume that because the person is with you, you guys are making out, you guys are having a great time, means that, they're willing to have sex. They may just want to make out and that's it. So this is why it's important to establish consent prior to any physical penetration by the male or the female engaging in that type of activity. Next slide, please. So myth, if a man gets an erection or ejaculates during sexual assault, then that means that they really did want it and were not assaulted. So it's funny, my husband and I, as I was preparing this presentation, we were talking and he was like, huh? And I was like, babe, yeah, like your body can sometimes have physiological responses that you didn't even think to have. And in the event that a man gets sexually assaulted and he actually gains an erection, it may just be the body's physiological response to what's happening. And it's the same dynamic if a woman orgasms or lubricates during a sexual assault. It doesn't actually mean that she wanted to have this happen to her. It's just the body's physiological response to having sexual intercourse. So that is actually a fact here. And sexual predators will exploit this response and use this to shame or manipulate the male victim into thinking that because they got an erection or ejaculated, that they must have really wanted the sexual contact all along. When in actuality, that is not the case at all. It's just your body doing what the body does. Next slide. Thank you. So myth, if women would just stop drinking so much, there wouldn't be so many sexual assaults, right? And we wouldn't have this conversation and we'll be along our merry ways. That's so false. The actual fact is alcohol is used by perpetrators to lower the defenses and incapacitate their victims. Alcohol may also be used by the perpetrator to excuse their behaviors. Alcohol is not an excuse or cause for rape. Drinking alcohol does not mean that someone gives up the right to choose what happens to their body. So I thought that this was just a powerful quote that I found online. And this is from the UK. And some of these quotes are like, "It's not rape, we were married. She was begging for it," end quote. "He came back to mine or came back to my apartment for coffee." And all of these quotes just highlight how society has conditioned our minds to feel when in actuality, sexual assault can happen in any of these events. Next slide, please. So let's break the silence. Report sexual assault. It's the most underreported crime. And I'm so thankful that I'm able to play an integral part in collecting forensic evidence as it relates to sexual assault victims and giving them a voice. So this final slide, it says sexual assault, awareness is key. And it begins with each of us. And as the panelists before myself said, it begins with all of us. We can give a voice to the voiceless. So I thank you guys this afternoon for allowing me to speak on myths and facts as it relates to sexual assault and just implicit bias related to sexual assault. Thank you all so kindly for this opportunity.
Okay, my partner in righteousness. That was fabulous. Of course, what did I expect? Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing.
I'm sorry I was a little delayed, but thank you, Sherry. I was trying to navigate through my screens.
You did wonderful, and I'm glad the PowerPoint were able to show that wonderful PowerPoint that you put together. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I really honor and appreciate you. You gave us valid points. It's really, really important for. I mean, what you said that really stood out to me is if the man ejaculated, that doesn't mean they were not abused. And that's something that I never thought of. Like, well, that means the person enjoyed it. So why are they complaining?
Right.
That's really a valid point. Thank you, Samantha. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sherry, for the invitation.
Absolutely. Let's give our third panelist a round of applause. Thank you, thank you. So we're gonna have another story. We getting to almost the finish line. If you have any questions, I know the chat has been busy. I was on the other screen, so I didn't really see what was going on in the chat. The people in the studio room can help me if there are any question that's on the chat, and we can try to answer the question. If you have any question, please put it on the chat, and if it's specific to a particular panelist, then we can have the panelists answer the question. So before we go on, I'm going to read another story. Okay. So it's a long story, so bear with us. Just like a typical Nigerian child, I always had one or two extended relatives staying at our home when I was growing up. My lovely parents have that open door policy, that every visitor comes to our house. When I was a young child, one of my uncles was staying over and we were alone and decided to do things that I didn't know anything about. All I knew was it was painful, and when I would yell, it will cover my mouth to keep me quiet. He used my fear of me not wanting to get in trouble to threaten me not to tell my mom what occurred to me, and I kept my mouth shut. I lived in constant horror and pain whenever he was around. He would sexually assault me anywhere. My parents' house, my grandmother's house, in the farm. He would make me sit on his lap when we're making road trip, sit upon his manhood. If I ever got in trouble, in addition to spanking, my punishment would be for him to molest me several times that day. I was his lab rat, the child he tested all his sexual fantasies on. I eventually started to realize that the pain I was experiencing wasn't normal, but I felt powerless to stop it. I stopped smiling. Who can smile when you are shadowed in constant fear? I was afraid of him, but I was much more terrified what will happen if I told someone that this abuse was going on. It convinced me that everyone I loved would turn against me, and if I told anyone of that sexual trauma he bestowed upon me. At the age of 12, I got my period, and when I told my parents, they concluded that I was a prostitute and I was sleeping around with men, and that's why I got my period early. My father called me his 12-year-old daughter a prostitute when his own brother was the one molesting me. It affected every facet of my life, my spiritual life, my emotional life, my psychological life. I felt very demoralized. I constantly bit my tongue. I never felt worthy enough to utter a word. I felt that no man would ever or could ever love me. I wanted revenge I wanted revenge, not just on this my uncle, but on every man that ever thought of even raping a girl or a woman. But I thank God that He eventually rescued me from this anger. I pray that anyone would never experience what I went through. After years of ache, I was finally able to forgive myself and my perpetrator in order to heal my own heart from the bruises I've carried for years. The key moment for me was when I was finally believed. I have healed enough to put my story in black and white. I've forgiven my parents for putting me in harm's way and not believing me. I am truly grateful to God for rescuing me. I now remember those times that God, and I thank God for healing me. For every parent and guardian reading this, make sure your children and the little ones are comfortable enough to tell you anything. Don't force children to interact with people in a way that they don't feel comfortable. Children's feelings are valid. Let your child know that you believe them. Let your child know that you believe them. That is really, really, really powerful. I'm going to bring Anne back. Anne, come on. Come on. It's lonely up here.
Yes, yes, yes. That is a very, very powerful statement. Letting your child know that you believe them. Very
Yeah,
powerful.
that's really, really powerful. So I really want to thank everyone. Before we move on, are there any questions? Any questions or comments? We can read some of the comment that's on the chat. The one that's Abiola is clapping. Andrew Barra said, "Thank you for clarification. Didn't realize that I was being influenced by implicit bias. Yeah, implicit bias influences all of us. And the other thing about implicit bias is an unconscious act that we have. We're so unconscious about, we're not aware of it. But now I hope through this forum we become aware of our unconscious biases that we have. The thought that goes through your head when somebody comes to tell you, oh, that girl down the street, she was molested yesterday. You're like, oh, she's always wearing those tight skirts. I knew something was gonna happen. Always wearing those tight, 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 tight skirts on top. Right, Anna? Have you've heard things like that, right? You know? So it's really, really important. Anne, are you still there with me? Are you
I'm
frozen?
here. I'm here. I'm
Okay,
listening
good.
to the comments. I'm here.
Excellent. So you want to read? If you see a comment you want to read, you can just read it out, and I'm gonna keep on reading some. Go ahead.
Yes, yes. Well, one of the comments, Princess said, "Believe your child." Very true, Professor. Believe your child. And
Yes.
Grace, Adianka says, Grace gave her the freedom to forgive.
Yes, absolutely. Grace gave her the freedom. I agree with that. So Pastor Bev has a comment. Pastor Bev said we have a right to our bodies. Consent must be clear. Yes means yes. No means no. Yes, absolutely. Shalita Redmond says very powerful. Speak Sam. Really appreciated this presentation. You have another one you want to read, Anne?
Yes. Adianka also says this is also emotionally and sexual assault altogether. Yes, it is. Emotionally and sexually assaultive altogether.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, thank you. I know there's a comment from, I'm trying to, oh, and Nancy. Nancy says, was this relative member also sexually abused in the past? And it's amazing how she's able to forgive her uncle. I think that's really important. And that's one of the things we like to actually guide survivors to get to. Those, some people might still be in the middle where it's just difficult to forgive that perpetrator. There's one thing my bishop always says, that when you don't forgive someone, it's like you're giving them a real estate in your heart. So even after what this person had done to my body, I'm going to give them a room in my heart. So I think when we start to think of it like that, it might make it a little easier. Like, I'm not doing that person a favor. I'm doing myself, right? And as a
Yes, and also, I want to add in there that not forgiving them and holding them in contempt is also giving them the power. They're continuing to hold that power over you. So really forgiving them, releasing it, and you finding a way for your own healing. And once you do that and you're able to pray for that person, then your healing is there. And they have to be able to find their own forgiveness. But when you continue to hide and seek, when you see that person around, then they know they still hold that power over you. And then they know they can still it can probably happen again.
yeah,
Because they don't see the improvement in you. They don't see the maturity in you. They still see that passive little person that they took advantage of.
yes. So, Miss Anne, you're very right on that. There are many affirmations on the chart. Beatrice said that we must examine our values, and Pastor Fed said we are agents of change, and family is the bedrock of change. Family is the bedrock of change. I'm gonna bring our panelists in case they want to like give some comments. As we try to round up, we're gonna hear from our sponsors, and then yes. Where is Dr. Princess? Okay, good. Panelists, you guys are on live. Your mics are hot. Do you have any closing remark? Let me start from Dr. Princess. Do you want to like say something as we round up? You heard all the wonderful, wonderful comments that people have been talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, thanks so much for having me on this, in this series. It's such an awesome time. And it's so interesting that all the presentations are just interlinked. It's just like building up on the other one, building up on the other one, till we got to our finishing line. And I'm so glad with the responses we also have. I had to go in there myself to check some of those responses. And so it's great that people were, participating. And I have a great conviction in me that this will go a long way, to contribute more into the society
Let me
understanding
comment.
about rape culture and knowing what it is they need to do. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. There's a question on the chat. I would like let me read the question and I'll tell you who will answer the question. Okay, so it's from TSN Studio. He said, how does a parent possibly handle knowing that their child was sexually assaulted? That is difficult. I'm gonna ask you, Dr. Princess, to answer that question. I'll have Anne to comment because she's an expert in the field too. So both of you, Princess first and then Anne after you.
Okay.
Dr. Princess, you first.
Okay, when if your child opens up, most times it's actually accidental discipline. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I want to be sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Once your child opens up, we have two ways this happens. It's either accidental disclosure or you discover. When that happens, the first thing it is to actually calm down. Most times people get a bit angry, and some people express the anger on the child. You need to be able to listen well to your child. That is, let the child speak and tell you what happened to them if they are ready to say something happened to them. Sometimes you can't push them beyond how they want to deliver, and you have got to believe them. When you're coming from the point of believe your child, there's a different way you would handle and approach and receive whatever information your child wants to give you. But really, you have to calm down inside. You have to have a way of calming yourself inside to listen, because as stated already in all the presentation, in Samantha's presentation. It tells you that people who do this are mostly people we know. So you are going to definitely hear the name of somebody who is close to you, your brother, your sister, your neighbor, your pastor, all kinds of people who are close to your family and to the child will be one of the accused perpetrators. When you do this, depending on your location, normally you take the child straight to a child advocacy center where the child will go through forensic interview, who are the experts trained to know how to, elicit information from a child on what really happened to help investigation and the judiciary process while medical examination and other things are being done. But at the same time, concurrently, it's so important to have support, show your child love, and also get access to counselors who will help the family, because it's not a news that it changes the family. It changes everything. It changes everybody. So everybody as a family, as a group, need to go through therapy, possibly if they can access. Let me stop there so that Anne can add more
Absolutely.
to what I've said.
And Miss Anne, can you add more to that from the a
Yes,
counselor perspective?
absolutely. Yes, I agree with Dr. Princess. Now, like the story I read with the 12-year-old, this is something that is within the family, right? This was someone that was living there. This child was almost competing with the mother for this man. Okay, she considered the man, her man. She felt that she had to advocate for him, even when he got arrested. Now in the mother's point of view, she is feeling badly for her daughter, but she is so confused as to how to even move forward with this. She's looking at her child as also another competition. And of course, one of the first things the mother needs to do is listen to her child. Listen to her child. The child has to know that you are on her side or his side. Just sitting and talking, and remember, everything that the child is saying, that's not the whole story. That's not everything. There is more that is being suppressed because it's been happening for 5 years, since she was 7 years old. So all of this has been ingrained in this child. Again, going to the CAC, which is the Child Advocacy Center, is important because they are the expertise. They know the questions that they need to ask this child. They know how to interrogate in a way where the child does not feel like he or she is backed against a wall, and is afraid to talk. Then they have special testings for these children that they can test to check for diseases, check for pregnancies, just an event that the child may have been have gotten some form of infection through this sexual abuse or this rape. But again, the child also needs to get into therapy, and it's always better to suggest that the child gets into therapy first before the family gets into therapy. The child needs, depending on the age, there is play therapy, right, where the therapist will go to the child in therapy in a different way. They will come around in a different way in order to get that child to open up. And it does not happen very often. It does not happen at the first. It may take, 2-3 months before the child might open up and really start talking. For boys, the same thing. So play therapy or therapy is always very well something that you should go to first after you get the child tested and you go to the authorities. Never, it's always something where, it's shameful, it's family secrets. This child was holding a secret between her and who she considered her man. He gave her a ring. She felt this was going to be her future. She was going to get married to him eventually. So it's family secrets. The mother, the father, the family may feel embarrassed. They don't want people to know. This was something that also happened where the church members would eventually know because the man was a deacon in the church. So it goes on a broader stem. But who are we hiding? Who are we protecting? We are protecting the survivor. Okay, this child is now a survivor, right? She was a victim, but she survived it. Now it's getting her past that to go through. And to be very honest, this is something that she's going to live with for the rest of her life. Some people never get past it, but only God can take her through. Only God can take her to the point where he needs her. So again, this is really, really a hot topic that we need to really pay very close attention to within our homes and within our communities and other family members.
Thank you, Han. Thank you. Samantha, any closing remark? Then right after you, Pastor Aduke. And then we're going to hear from our sponsors. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to thank everyone this afternoon. It was extremely informative. Thank you for the invitation, Raloom. You guys are doing amazing work. And I'm just so thankful that I had the opportunity to be among such intellectual minds. And it was just truly an honor and pleasure. So just remember, it starts with you, awareness, and let's have these conversations. They're difficult, they're not easy, but it begins at home, as our panelists discussed. So, let's open it up, be aware of what's happening, and shed light on a tough topic. Thank you again for the invitation.
Pastor Aduke. Pastor Aduke, we can't hear you. You have to unmute yourself.
Sorry. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you everyone for the session. It's been an awesome time learning from other panelists. And I just want to leave a word that let's not forget what we instill into our children. Our values are the things that's embedded into them. And so let's remember, when in parenting, let's not forget the girl child and the boy child and instill the values into them. And our home should always be that haven that the children can be vulnerable in. So we make it a place where they can talk and open up, and they don't have to carry that pain or the stigma with them for the rest of their lives, and then it turns them into perpetrators at the end of the day also. And I think that's and it starts with you. It's one thing we have all seemed to talk about. It starts with you. So what do you do thereafter? After today, you should do something with all the things you have heard. And it should, the paradigm shift should start now. So victims should not be re-victimized.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much. The victim should not be victimized. So I'm going to share a short clip from the Veronica Morrison Foundation. We co-hosted this event together, and would like for you to hear about the foundation. Hold on one second. Okay. I'm going to read a little bit about them while I move on the panelists out of the room. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. So the Veronica Morrison Foundation is named after Veronica Morrison, a godly woman who used her gift, talent, and resources to touch the lives of children, young adults, and women. Veronica extended the hand of Christ through her various acts of benevolence to reach the less fortunate. Using her limited income, her unwavering faith, and her massive love for people, Veronica Kindness became a personal global outreach. With wisdom and creativity, she never allowed her generosity to affect the welfare of her family, who never went lacking. With this in mind, our children formed a foundation that would keep this vibrant woman's aspiration alive for generations to come. The mission of Veronica Morrison Foundation is to reach out to children of all ages, culture, nationality, and races to assist them in attaining good education, achieving wellness, and aspiring for excellence. So we honor our Pastor Bev. That is a mother of our Pastor Beverly, Veronica Morrison. So we're going to show We honor her. So we're going to show a video from Relone Foundation, a clip of some of the activity we're doing, actually 2 videos. Then after that video, you're going to hear the voice of our chairman, who's going to give us a closing remark, and we're going to be done.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Move mountains, we gon' walk it out and move mountains. And I'll rise like the day. I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I do it 1,000.
Okay, so that's a video of the clinic that we just finished building in Nigeria, and some of the outreaches that we did in the different communities. I'm going to share a video from myself and our chairman, and then the chairman is going to come and share his closing remarks. Let me know if you can hear the volume of the video. Can you hear the volume, Anne?
No, I can't.
Okay, so I'm gonna try it again. I guess this is gonna make me do everything twice. It's all right. Okay. Foundation.
Okay, there we go.
The desire we have for this foundation. Relone Foundation is a. Okay, I'll start from the beginning. I am the president of Relone Foundation. This is my husband, Sandy Adioson. He is the chairman of Relone Foundation. We're here today to share with you the desire we have for this foundation. Relone Foundation is a conduit that connects the people that have not with the people that have.
We meet the need of the people academically, physically, and spiritually.
In meeting their needs academically, provide school supply to the children from the primary school level up to the secondary school level. And we also Okay, did this stop?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I don't know what happened. Okay, we're gonna stop sharing. Okay, we're gonna hear from the chairman, and hopefully we can go back to that video. Go ahead. Let me bring him in.
Hi. Hi, I want to use this opportunity to thank all the panelists and everybody present for this seminar. It's such a great thing when people shine the light on your life, because at first the first panelist, Dr. Princess Olufemi Kayode, when she was going to talk, she said the changes start from you. And then the second panelist, who happened to be my sister-in-law, Pastor Adukobe, she also pointed the finger at me and said the change starts with you. And I begin to look and reflect. Then the third panelist came. She talked about the implicit biases that we all have. And even while she was still speaking, I could see a lot of things that the meat that I still got on the inside of me as a guy towards a lot of things that we're talking about. So we have to understand that the change, God created a home. We should be the children, like everybody said, the family is the bedrock of the society. We have to make sure that we train our children the proper way and the way to do things. If I could have the face of the second panelist, my sister-in-law, with me, I would like to see her face. Is it possible? Yeah. I remember a long time ago, we were in your living room and we were talking. And I had a different view to it. And you made mention one day, you said Sunday is chauvinist. I mean, then it took a while. I didn't accept it then, but it took me a while to know that my views then were really chauvinistic. And it took me time. So, and this made me realize that some of us had a very disadvantaged background. And that's because we're not learning, there was no father figure sometimes to really give us the necessary training of what to do. But as we continue to grow and as God begin to impact our life, we begin to change a lot of things. So I am now a father of 3 girls that I don't even think there's room for being chauvinistic right now. I thank you for saying those things then. And at the same time, I hear about forgiveness. Forgiveness does not change the past, but it will enlarge your future. If we can get to a place where we forgive, it helps to brighten up our future so that we can continue to do what God has destined for us to do. This conversation, we must continue to have it in our families. We must bring our children together and have family discussion. That is what we do in my home. And from these family meetings that we hold once a week and talk to my girls, I have learned so many things I wouldn't have been able to learn in a structured school. Please, delay is the deadliest form of denial. We have to start it now. Thank you very much. I want to appreciate Veronica Morrison Foundation for what they do in the community, how they empower young and vibrant girls and boys to be what God has destined them to be. God decided to have a family to raise children. And God gave us the opportunity to raise them 18, even 21. Sometimes some of them never leave. Other animals don't have that. They have their kids for 2 years and they are on their own. 3 years, but God recognizes that for these children to be a contributing member of a civil society, they have to be under our tutelage for 18, 21, and even beyond. Please, let's do what God has told us to, has asked us to do in raising our boys and our girls to be a civil member of our society. Thanks to Reloom Foundation, the meaning of Reloom is to bring light, to rekindle. And I thank that foundation. I thank the president for doing so much to bring light into so many darkened regions and into so many homes. And I appreciate that. Thank you. And thanks to my sister-in-law. I'm so proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, sir. And I'm going to attempt to share this video and we're going to call it a day. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, those working in the background. Our secretary from Nigeria, Dave Aitano. Thank you, my personal assistant, Rosalind. You're in the background working. Thank you for all that you do. I truly, truly honor and I appreciate the work that God is doing in you. You guys are holding it down in Nigeria. I appreciate you. So let's look at the video right now. I think you guys can see it. I am the president of Reloom Foundation. This is my husband, Sunday Adioson. He is the chairman of Reloom Foundation. We're here today to share with you the desire we have for this foundation. Reloom Foundation is a conduit that connects the people that have not with the people that have.
We meet the need of the people academically, medically, and spiritually.
In meeting their needs academically, we provide school supply to the children from the primary school level up to the secondary school level. And we also inspire them, we motivate them to dream, to be able to have a vision for their future.
The medical component of the organization comprises of we go into the communities with doctors, ophthalmologists, pharmacists, nurses, and we do screening and we treat and diagnose people of various diseases. Other aspect of it is that those who need surgery, we do surgery for them, and we do even follow up even after the surgery that is done.
And the greatest part of this whole program is the spiritual aspect of it. And we meet the need of the people by offering them the Lord Jesus Christ, who is the greatest gift of all. And after we offer them the Lord Jesus Christ, we pray with them, we counsel them based on their various needs. We invite you to partner with us, to partner with us on this vision, on this journey of connecting the people that have with the people that do not have. And if you have a desire to know more about our ministry, you can actually go to www.reloadfoundation.org. Thank you so very much. God bless you as you join forces with us to meet the needs of the African community. Thank you. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. So I'm going to bring everyone and we can wave goodbye as we close the broadcast. Let me bring everyone come in. Let's give us again, see people walking behind the scene. Rosalind, show your face. Rosalind, come on.
Oh, me.
Say hi. Just wave, Natasha. Natasha, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
I know you don't have your video. Am I missing anyone? I think I'm missing some people.
Dr.
Princess.
Samantha is.
Thank you. It's such a great job.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you.
My righteousness. My favorite sister-in-law.
Great job, panelists.
Great job. Thank you.
And my sister Natasha. You see, I did.
Okay.